All right, so we're all set now. When we are to find our subject for research, we normally get a broad scope of what we need to achieve, what would be the objective. But in order for us to come up with a sample that needs to be carefully selected, not because of its characteristics only, but also because it serves the objective of our research, we need to be methodical in finding out which sample in terms of the volume and also in terms of the quality or the attributes or the characteristics that are found to be common, which would be representative of the population. The population is the entire subject or any one or any uh, of the characteristics of a general population, which are common, but it may be targeted towards a certain segment of that population. And from that population, we are going to extract a sample or the number of people in the sense in which we are describing it throughout this lecture. It will be human subjects. So to have those human subjects to collectively make them appear the representative of that those characteristics or typical attributes commonly found in those samples. We will create a strategy so that when we pick those samples, we are ensuring that there is no bias involved in selection. We want to have the ability to make those samples extracted as having equal chance of being selected. So to do that, we have approach or way in which we can look for those sample sizes by a method called probability or probabilistic sampling method, which means that it is a function, a method that would bring those samples without being selective or proactively being selective on them. You are using a probability analysis or probabilistic sampling methods. So if I start with this slide right here, it is telling you there are two ways in which we do sampling. Let me run this slide. So there is probability sampling and there is non-probability sampling. Probability by definition means that every member of the population has a known and equal chance of being selected. That means it becomes an automated process in a sense. Okay. And a non-probability sampling is when you have to proactively select the sample by selecting those individuals that make that sample just because there are these characteristics which otherwise are very difficult to find because they are very peculiar or they are, especially in clinical research, like there has to be certain type of diagnosis for a certain type of age, for a certain type of area, and so on and so forth. So that becomes more difficult, and it is required that you go and look for those individuals, or the sample size will differ depending on who you can or cannot find, or what could be your or what your project dictates as a volume of sample. The process in non-probability sampling is also called recruitment. Recruitment of sampling is something that is outsourced quite a bit because a lot of times research companies, they don't have the ability to, or you could say even the kind of, they don't have even access to that kind of sampling, so they outsource those samplings. And this is coming from non-probability sampling. Examples you could see in the probability sampling, if you had a population of 100 people, each person would have odds of 1 out of 100 of being chosen, of course. So if these are the numbers in a bucket, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 100, and you just pick one, that chance of that instance where you are sampling just one would mean a chance of 1 out of the total sample of 100. So that the fact that you are randomly picking it up from that pool, that makes it probability sampling. So there is a probability of one number to be found out of 100 when you pick just one card or just one piece of paper with a number on it. That's the simplest way of explaining probability. In probability sampling, we have simple random sampling, stratified sampling, systematic sampling, and cluster sampling. These are the broad categories in which we would separate the sampling techniques. Or these techniques, all four of these are named for a reason, and the reason is the system that is applied in each of these four different categories to bring that number or to extract that sample size. Non-probability samplings are convenience-oriented, purposive, quota-based, snowballing sampling, and volunteered sampling. These five of these we will explain later, but we will start with the probability sampling, which is more usual and common and standard for any research or researcher rather to have an understanding of. I'm going to, even before I get to stratified sampling, let me just explain what simple random sampling. Simple random is, supposing you have a coin that you want to flip, and flipping the coin, which has two sides, of course, the chances of heads or tails that's going to drop on the ground would depend on, you know, uh, well, it just depends on probability of what is going to fall on the ground or what side of it is going to show on the ground. That is simple random sampling. Okay, generally speaking, but in the real world, we don't actually do a lot of simple random. We do something called stratified sampling. Stratified sampling is more systematic. It means that just the probability of something happening or not happening is not enough. You need to go from one happening of the occurrence to happen to move to the next level and to the next level and the level further down, depending on how you're going to start your sampling from the population. So the plan of sampling starts really with stratified sampling, and that's where we're going to check out what that entails. Taking an example of, first of all, what strata means. Strata is just a group. Strata is the number of groups, or there could be several stratas that you can create. But think of strata as a group or a subgroup of something. From the concept of what the stratified really means from the definition perspective. That's what I've explained. How does that apply in the sampling world? That's okay. No, that's correct. Take this example. For instance, if you just look at where I'm pointing my arrow in this diagram, you can see that supposing the population where you're doing your surveys consists of 1,000 employees. So 1,000 may be a large number for you to work on in order for you to do research. You need to reduce this population size to a more manageable way of doing your research on the subjects that you would extract or you would pull from the population. When you are doing your sampling, the first thing you would want to do is to separate or to give some criteria from the population to have to make that selection as apparent distinction or distinguishing marks. For instance, in this case, you want to separate the female workers from the male workers. So out of 1,000, let's suppose you figured that there are 800 females and 200 males working. So basically, you got a more of a general feature set that you have established based on the gender. So 800 to 200 in this case means that there is a ratio of approximately 80% women and 20% men. That's what is making this population. So this green part is the first thing that you would do, is to separate the general characteristics for extracting the samples. Now, if the 80-20 ratio exists in the population, you want to reduce it to say 100. If that is your target, to select 100 employees out of 1,000, you will maintain a characteristics or homogeneity in terms of the first separation that you made, which is between male and female, as having a ratio of 80:20. Next thing what you will do is you will split this into 80 females and 20 males. So now you have two stratas or two groups that you are uh, uh, able to um, separate as the first step by creating two stratas, one of 80 females and 20 male. Now from 80 females and 20 males, you would be able to create a sample size of 100 employees. And this is the most simple way of explaining stratified sampling, and it may progressively go into further making or creating or separating individuals out of the set of 100 based on next level of characteristics. Okay, so this would just keep going down and you'll keep making stratas. But supposing if we are just talking about simplified stratified or simplified strata sampling, then this is what it means. Just these two groups separated, but maintaining the ratio. Okay. So this is the standard technique. Then we've got systematic sampling. Systematic sampling is more detailed. System means that there could be several status that you would create along the way until you reach your sample size, which has a probabilistic nature of being found or grouped together based on system. So what is this system? Take the same example where the population of employee is right here in this circle. You took a sample of employees. Let's suppose you wanted to take, say, maybe 500 employees out of a sample population. So these sample of employees cannot be just randomly taken. Like you need to bring some sort of an order that describes the reason for selecting those individuals, those employees. In the first instance, if this is the sample that you want to take, what you will do in the first instance is, let's suppose employees have their names start. You can put an order for the sample as a list of employees, but you have to put an order in which you have put their names or names of the employees. You can either use names starting from A and then moving to B, C, D, or alphabetically set, or you can just use the employee numbers. For example, the first employee that you put on the top will have an employee number 1, the second number 2, number 3, and so there is an order, and that order is to be created as a first step in the systematic sampling. Now, the second thing you want to do is, let's suppose that you have 1 through 100 employees, or employee numbers 1 up to 100. You would still want to reduce that sample to bring in, let's say, out of 100, you want only, say, 10 employees or 20 employees. But you don't want to go by the number alone, and you have to be selective in what number to select. So you can use a method like every sixth employee, every fifth employee, in that order. So the fifth employee from 1 through 5, you can say Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so. The next employee that you will select would be the fifth after that, or the 10th employee, and then the 15th employee, and so it goes on. And that makes it systematic from that perspective. So in the diagram, it is showing that this is the list of employees. It says alphabetically, but let's suppose number is what we are interested in. So employee number is there. And from that number, you selected the one which is the sixth person, as shown in this example. So the one highlighted in yellow is the sixth one. You're going to select this sixth employee and put it in the sample. Similarly, you're going to do the next selection, which will be the 12th employee, and put it in the sample. So there is a systematic sampling going on over here, where one sample size is going to allow you to extract further sampling. And then from that sample, you can even create another criteria to further go and create more stratas and more groups by putting or allocating an attribute similar or dissimilar, or putting some order in the numbering in numbers, for you to further create subgroups of the groups until you've got the selection, which is not randomized in the sense of how stratified sampling happens, but it is randomized systematically from one stage to the next and the next. So this is what systematic sampling is about. Are you getting it, Majdi? Is this easy to understand, or you want me to explain anything else?
So far, so good. Yeah. Just more detailed than stratified sampling. So you do it gradually. Yeah, based
You
on
do it gradually.
yeah, on an interval to select the people.
Right. Interval, when you use the word interval, you're talking about, not the time difference. You're talking about the different stages in which you can filter out more of the sample to not only reduce it, but also to focus it to the attributes which apparently or eventually will end up with a sample that has homogeneity of some sense. That is the criteria when you're getting to the final sample. And we've got clustered sampling also here. Let me see. Yeah, clustered sampling. Clustered sampling is actually sampling techniques are, there are so many different sampling techniques. It just depends on how you're going to cover more of a ground to get the acceptable sample, which would represent or actually deliver the results that have a general impact on the eventuality of the outcome of that survey. So all the time you have to look at the situation first, the sample itself or the size of it. Um, Certain situations require for you to be aware of the geography of it. Other samples you want to see as we will run through cluster sampling, that's where I'm getting to. Others could be, the separation based on, I guess, the socio-economic situations of the countries as far as pricing, or there could be industries which are separated from one unit being in one place and the other, having its own set of issues, where others have another set of issues depending on their location and the management that is handling it, or it could be the branches. So you'll have to use different sampling techniques, even for things that, let's just look at this one, and then I'll explain further with where I'm leaving now. Say you have production, or a big company that has production line in 3 different locations. This one, let's say in the first circle, you could see that they're trying to pick 23 employees from department which is product development. And the position that they are trying to work with by separating the operational, I guess, or just learning about the operational efficiencies that are impacted by different positions that is handling the production department, like managerial versus production workers versus supervisors. You would look at 3 different locations and a cluster, which is this yellow thing behind, the yellow shade. And in this cluster, you selected a production development, 23 employees in this circle with managerial position. Compared to this, the second, well, there could be another group of 27 employees in another location, but the difference is that you're looking for production workers here, so that they are not mixed, or there is no, um, you know, there is no collusion. Let's use the word collusion. And the sample itself would represent the general idea um, of efficiency that are impacted by these positions, the 3 positions. The second position, production workers. The third one is supervisory positions. And this is again another location. So from the 3 locations, the homogeneity is that it is the production development department in all 3, but the difference is the position or the job description of these samples. So supervisors, managers, and production. So these are 3 different positions. So when you are picking it up in such a way that it is creating a cluster, and you can have multiple clusters. It could be regionally separated, or it can be separated according to the different products that are manufactured. But the clusters could be a lot more than just one cluster over here. But within the cluster, there has to be a differentiator or a sample that is representative of something that may not be working in collusion, so that it is not vertically inclined, as having the managerial, production, and foreman supervisory position from the same production line or from the same location, but these are separately arranged so that a cluster is created. So this is cluster sampling. Then we've got probability, we've got multi-stage sampling. And like I said, it depends on the strategy of extracting samples based on objective of research. Um, and within the same research, you can have 5 or 6 different sampling techniques you can apply. It just depends on what you are after, or what is the ultimate sample that you require. In this case, for instance, the population is of US schools children. So it is a very huge population, and you have to use a technique called multi-stage sampling. In the first sampling, you will do separate or be selective about population, about states, like how many of the states you will be selecting. Or basically from the schools, it is saying to separate them into different districts or different states. So in the first stage, you separated them into different states. In the second stage, you are separating or selecting through another method of sampling. You will be selecting sample of states. Now here it is not the individual students or the subject is not human, but it is the state itself, and selecting the state is the second stage. From the second stage, you're going to do further selection. From these states, you're going to be selecting the schools, like these are the schools. And when you're doing this selection, you may be running stratified, random, or any kind of sampling techniques that you want to apply, but the stages are changing. So in the third stage, you are selecting the schools within the states. In the fourth stage, you are basically doing your random sampling or randomizing sampling from these states. You're going to be selecting students. Okay. So that it is moving from, it's starting from a large population, it is reducing in size and it is becoming more focused. And the sample eventually that you're getting to has a order or a system that you have applied that would also justify your non-biased approach to figuring out exactly um, that it has a method which is generally accepted method in the industry, and therefore nobody is going to question your sample. So you're going to use multi-stage sampling here. Okay. All right. Then we have non-probability sampling. Non-probability, the first one that is described in this illustration, in this diagram, I think it's easy to understand. Here, what happens is one individual would ask others or someone to the um, find the sample within the group that this individual or this person, who you can assume to be the recruiter in this case, in gray color, they are looking for a sample which is convenient, which is around them, which is part of their group, or it could be within the same class. So that is convenience oriented. That means you don't have to go outside or look for somebody else by actually connecting with them. There is no difficulty connecting with them because of their proximity around this individual that is collecting the easy and convenient sampling. Then we've got another sampling where voluntary response sample, for instance. Here you are advertising or you're requesting somebody to voluntarily appear or be part of the sample. And it is easy to understand. That's why it's a written voluntary response sample. So basically in the volunteer response groups, the example is people having a similar set of issues or similar situations therein, and it is something that they voluntarily want to become part of. It could be an experiment, it could be a therapy group, it could be anything, but it requires voluntary response. So that is voluntary response sample. Then we've got purposive sampling. In purposive, you need to motivate, or you have to give motivation to, let's say, two people right here in green color. And you would expect these two to have some connection with others that they can refer you with, or bring them as guest or as someone that can participate. So here you are asking these two individuals in green color who has similar attributes that could perfectly fit into the sample, but you don't know anybody else other than these two people in green, and therefore these people will know the others that have a similar kind of situations or similar conditions or some similarity of why these can be chosen as having a relationship or some sort of knowledge about each other or having a similar set of issues. So you basically recruit two and then they find these other that serve the purpose. Snowballing sample is when you need a lot of people in the sample and it is very difficult to get to. So what you do is you spread the word. You talk to one individual right here to find more. Similarly, on the other side also, so basically you've got two people here that are attracting or getting more people recruited for you. So these are, you only interface with two of these, and while two of them would be bringing others. But here it's not purposive as much as it is the volume that is required. So that we call snowballing sampling. These techniques are non-probabilistic, which means that you actively pursue recruitment or have others recruit the sample for you. And there could be there could be a question about a system that is not really randomized, it is more selective, and that could result in bias of sorts. But given the difficulty of finding the sample and difficulty in finding the homogeneity in that sample, you may have to proactively pursue looking for these samples. And therefore, it is non-probabilistic and there is no element of systematic sampling here. Now, quickly, I'm going to start with Module 3. We are done with Module 2 now. Anything that required my involvement in bringing to your attention those important areas of Module 2 that would come in your exam, or where we feel that the conceptual clarity should be delivered uh, through these lectures. In Module 2, we have covered all of that. Now, there could be smaller topics or there could be other chapters that we are not covering because they are purely theoretical, and pretty much easy to understand if you read through them. So there would be 3 or 4 chapters, which is like, and we did cover a bit of all from all of those, but they are not described in these PowerPoints as chapters. They're basically topics, as small topics, but you can read more about them. And like I said, they may not be as relevant from the examiner's perspective. And the idea is that you are prepared for CIRS certification. So that's why I've left them out. Now I would like to start with the topic of research in business and business of research. How many of you are planning to start your own independent online research consulting? Any one of you could just give me an idea. And
I'm going into the marketing direction. Not so which in marketing there's a lot of research.
yes, market research.
Right. But I'm not doing anything specifically trying to start a research company. No, but I will be working in market research.
Okay. So, and of course, I understand that you have requirements for the type of data and the approach to researching within companies. You would have to know the different types of information that collectively becomes part of the market research. One of them could be product research, price research, or you can even say analysis, price analysis. There could be business intelligence collection, comparative intelligence, and so on and so forth. So that becomes part of your market research, um, generated or related research types. And of course, there could be others who would be looking for academic research. There would be, legal research depending on the business areas, um, and something that supports their own profession. So there could be multiple applications of it. And while we are doing research in business and business of research, we are covering two things. One is for those who actually are somewhat involved in the managerial or operational working of businesses. They would get introduced to the type of research reports that are internally generated. And within those, there are pieces of information that needs to be, that is acquired from outside in order for it to be having a relationship or somewhat would help in budgeting, forecasting, and doing comparative analysis. And especially the marketing and sales teams might be interested in those. So we'll be covering that part when we say research in business. The second aspect of it is business of research, which is what separates research in business from an independent research work, right? So these two aspects. Going to start explaining some of these initial slides, I'd say, to give an overview, which is a combination of research in business and business of research from the perspective of a client, from the perspective of a researcher, and anybody who is going independent to form their own business. What is it? What are the requirements for starting your independent business? Let's start that after taking a short break. I'd say about 10 minutes, and I would see you in a little bit. So let's grab some coffee, and I'll see you in shortly. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully you're all ready to start the next half of the session. And
Certainly.
yeah, there you are, everyone.
Yes.
So I'm going to start with something what we like to call readiness for starting your research work. What are the different elements that is actually surrounding this figure in the middle? All of these are short explanations, or at least they are the main captions. We will explain each one of them. So when you start to do your research work, you need to have a checklist that covers things that are mentioned here all around. We'll go anti-clockwise from this one. Expert subject knowledge or a generalist. So you have to categorize your research work in two areas. One we call knowledge subject, which is more specialized, like legal research or market related and so on. And then you can work as a generalist. Generalist means that you are capable of finding any sort of info using your search skills on the internet. And that makes it more in the general area. That includes, sales leads that you need to collect. Sometimes you need to collect specific type of information, very generic in nature, for which you don't need to have a background, professional background or academic background. So you are doing a general research, or you can do a combination of both. Then you have to have a library or something that you would create which would readily give you access to a specific topic of information, and you have a directory of links that you have built already from your previous experiences, so that it is not wasted, it has become part of your collection. One of the documents, or say the books that you have in your Dropbox, it gives you links to different types of databases that you can readily go to or search for, or your sites that have specialized subject information there. That is what it means. Where to search for information means your ability to organize a directory of where you want to go to do quick searches. How to search for relevant and reliable information. So you will all the time be confronted with this burden of verifying information. It could be primary or first-hand, or it could be secondary information, depending on the need and the type of data you need to collect. You need to be able to identify fake and biased info, meaning that you should have the ability to figure out whether the source of information has that authenticity, or there should be some sort of utilities or some sort of softwares that would help you to identify anything that is fake, especially multimedia, especially deep fakes. And as far as the fake information is concerned, there are a lot of websites that we call fact checkers or fact check websites. You should be able to subscribe to those, or at least have a way of knowing where to go to authenticate that information. A part of it is based on your knowledge of verification techniques in online information. We have a book that is also, I think it's part of your collection in your Dropbox, that says online investigative research. You may want to look at some of the topics in there, and that would also explain the ways in which you can verify certain type of info. If it is a journalistic type or it is a news oriented, then it would have a subject or a topic there in that book that will tell you how to verify those type of news. That is part of your your skills in online investigative research. How to collect, tabulate, and so collecting information is not enough. Of course, you have to learn or have at least the skills to be able to do analysis, create graphs, um, use Excel sheets effectively. Perhaps Python is another technology that you might want to learn in order for you to make better presentations of data, and also to um, do some calculations and do some tabulations of information. So all of that is another skill that you must have. Writing research reports is very important because that's where you're going to deliver everything that is being researched and do it in a systematic way and make it a very compelling research report. So that is another part which you will come across as an added skill that you should have. Ability to conduct online investigative research, I guess I covered that in how to identify fake and biased information. Familiarization of important cyber laws is also very important, like what type of information you can use, reuse, or if you acquire some database or say you subscribe to some database, then there could be some legalities or some sort of terms of its use that you should be familiar of. If you're doing surveys, then what could be the what could be the protocols involved in getting some sort of legal paperwork that you need to get signed. That is important. What is plagiarism? How the plagiarism is looked at from research perspective? What are some of the the common sort of you can just call it public domain laws for using the information that is freely available, to what extent you can use it. There would be ethical issues, which is what the researchers are supposed to apply, or at least have a sense of knowing what is generally accepted as ethical practices. This topic we will cover when we are doing research. So ethical issues starts from, doing your sampling, recruitment, how you're going to do that, how you intend to utilize that information, what part can be public, what should be remain private, where do you need to get permissions of use of that information, and so on. So that is covered in cyber laws and ethical issues of internet. Then we've got conventional research methodology. That's what we did all this time. That knowledge you should have. Knowledge of specialized online research and tools. These are referential guides, which has a listing of these different tools and specialized search engines that you should have handy available to you. Then you've got how to perform precision search, of course, the search queries that we did. So all of it together, if you bundle it and if you pay attention to having all these resources and all this knowledge, you should be ready to work online and go independent if you choose to do that. Then we have to look at what the client generally wants to, they want to evaluate whether, they should outsource that work to you or not. So what makes it favorable choice for the client? These are some of the things that we will be talking about. How is the client going to look at your ability to do professional research? So starting with the experience in the industry or subject knowledge, that's number one. What are the previous work references? Of course, standard in any work situation or any outsourcing situation. Then we've got, can we trust giving business information? So generally the client is very reluctant to give out numbers or special kind of information which is required for the research work, but the client want to keep it secretive. So there is a non-disclosure agreement that needs to be done. And the trust level means that while you're collecting information for the client, there would be a part which the client will have to give to you as well. So there needs to be a trust level for that information to remain, remain between the client and yourself as a researcher. So that assurance is what is required. And of course, in those terms, the client may also want to look at your business as if it is an ongoing operation, which means it is a legitimate company or a business or an LLC, whatever formal structure you want to give to the business would have an impact in knowing, and for the client to get the reassurance that the business is not going to get finished up or something that for which they have the ability to go after you legally in case you don't deliver or there is a breach in contract. So if it is an individual with or if it's a sole proprietorship, and so there is a less of a trust on that business. If it is a corporation, a small company, or a S corporation, of course, then the client would have a more of a reassurance. So that business structure would have an impact on reliability issues. Can we count on reliability, get it, or is, and then there is a reliability of gathered information. A lot of companies out there are claiming to be professional researchers, and they would do surveys, and they would do other collect all sorts of information without regards to say verifying that information. So the client would want to know if they can rely on the data that you have collected. There are certain marketing companies that do surveys, but they're not trustworthy. So they may not do it exactly the way it is intended for the information to be coming from the original source. They might just have a marketing or a kind of a consortium or a team of people that would have several pseudo accounts, or they may not be real people from where they're collecting the data. So that it could be of concern to the client as well. So the quality and the reliability of that information in terms of the source itself is more important. And that's what the client wants to know. What is the business background, size, expertise, of course, standard stuff. What are the business membership with trade professional organizations? A lot of professional organizations such as CIRS, such as AOFIRS, for instance, has a body or a charter which regulates kind of, or anyone who gets certified through us, um, and based on some of the ethical concerns that are part of the profession of online research are um, are presented or become part of the membership uh, regulations, and therefore it has an impact where someone can actually complain about a CIRS not performing the duty. So there is one go-to professional organization where the client feels comfortable that they can complain in case the professional there is some sort of a you know how would you put it? I would say that if someone is not performing as a professional, that's when they can come and complain to the association also. Who are the business partners, collaborators? So a lot of times you want to, when you start your research work, you need to have some relationship with, let's say, software companies such as Tableau, for example. We have working relationship with Tableau, which is a software that does analytics. There are other partners we work with also that are well known in the industry. So for the client to have that kind of information, or for the researcher to be affiliated in the sense of how they collaborate with other reputable companies, would be an important part of the client to consider. What is the business digital footprint? It is, the social media where they're talking about, like, do you have, are you visible enough in at least some of the more common and famous social media sites like LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on? And are people putting comments in there? How many followers you have? Things like that. How do the business website appear? Of course, it has to appear, decent enough or have enough information that would reveal, when the company started, or the background about the company, about the directors, people who are running the business, and so on. Are there any third-party opinions, polls, reputation? This can be searched easily. So reputation management is another area where the companies generally want to make sure that there are only good comments and nothing bad, or anything that's tarnishing their reputation is not um, is not something that is appearing or popping up all the time. Are there any court cases or ongoing litigations? So this is another search these people do, especially in the areas where the company is registered, or if any business is registered even as a sole proprietorship, they want to check through the court cases. And it is public database. I'm sure it is in USA also, but in Canada, it's a public database. You can find out if there is some litigation going on in those courts. So that's pretty much covering what the concerns of a client is, generally speaking. Then how do I get online research work? So we're going to cover all of these when we keep moving forward with the opportunities in finding online research work. But of course, it is just these points that you can look at. Establish research niche, like you have to design your package for research, like would it be hourly based? What areas of expertise you want to highlight, which corresponds to your previous experience, so on and so forth. Layout online presence. They're talking about the digital footprints. Build comprehensive business plan. Of course, you have to make one, even if you're starting alone as a small business. Obtain certifications, register with professional organizations, so on and so forth. This is not as important. These are general type of things that we will be discussing in any case. So I'm just going to move forward. What is an independent? This is just definition. Subject specialist, vast knowledge of professional experience, and independent consultant provides a third eye to look at business or technical matters. A lot of times, independent consultant or independent knowledge professionals are engaged because especially the shareholders or investors or outside lenders, they want to get a separate research done or certain informations that they don't want to rely on being generated internally from the management side, so they would hire the independent consultants. Okay, start of business. This is not relevant because the prices keep changing. Purpose, increase. What is the purpose of professional research? And this is just 9 of these are explained um, as something that might just come in the exam. They would say, what is the purpose of professional research? And they'll give you like maybe number 2 or number 5 or number 7, and maybe an odd one, which does not belong in this list. So, to confuse you. So that's why this slide is here. It increases the existing knowledge and generate new knowledge. Okay. Find new information and revise existing data, construct or create new procedures. So anything new that you would create, or the objective or research is so that you eventually can create something new. That is important for research. Research does not mean that you find the information, but there has to be a purpose. And there has to be a direction which you would take in order for you to achieve that objective. Therefore, it is obviously more focused to bring or eventually for someone to create something new or to solve a problem. Develop investigations and experimentation, derive inferences, put forth solutions, collect data, and convert it into meaningful analysis. Analysis is part of the research work. Explore and analyze general issues surrounding a problem, explain new phenomena. Anyway, so this was okay, soft skills, hard skills, not important. This is where I'm going to start. A list of research reports used in businesses. Now, these tabs are giving or naming some of the type of reports that are generally considered research reports, or there is a special name given to it, or you could say that within these areas, you would find that there are several different types of uh, mm, reports that are categorized under these headings. And there are far too many. So we will just look at the um, some of the terminology or some of the naming of the reports that you can search online by using these wordings, or you can phrase it exactly how it is explained here, so that you would be able to get the correct results or more about what is involved in these type of researches. Market research reports, industry trends, generally these are what is asked for you to find the information on. Social media presence, brand loyalty research. You should know what brand loyalties means and how do you look for that data. When you are packaging your services, you may want to highlight any of these as the type of researches that you do as an expert. Some people are only specializing in social media researchers, so they use words like brand loyalties within social media, social trends, opinions, ratings, etc. Then there are consumer preferences. This would involve surveys, focus groups, and so on. So you can use the wording consumer preference report or consumer preference search, research. All those wordings would bring you all sorts of different types of more focused reports with specific names to it. SWOT analysis, um, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and so on. Financial accounts and audit reports. So when we are dealing with financial accounts, we are talking about having enough knowledge or having a background in finance or accounting. So it may not pertain to you particularly, but there could be some aspects of research that involves your knowledge on things like in audit reports, for instance. The auditors generally work with the management and there could be a possibility of collusion. So the investors might ask a researcher to verify, for instance, certain provisions that you put as eventualities or certain probable numbers that may happen in future, but they're not verified, or the investors may not have a trust on it, so they would want third party or outsider to verify those figures. Not just the external, or not as external auditor, but someone with knowledge of the industry that can verify the basis on which those numbers are generated. Then you've got budgets and costs, and you've got product analysis. Within the product analysis, it could be, bill of material that you want to verify, or the cost of bill of materials that brings the product cost together. There could be, in the product analysis, it could be a feature set research, which means you're going to compare the features of the product of your client with the competitor's product. So that could be another research. It is part of the product analysis, but these are subsets of product analysis. And product analysis could also mean price analysis. So depending on how these analyses are associated with the product, you will get a la carte menu of all sorts of analysis within this area of product research. Market share research. This involves industry research and certain facts and figures, including historical facts and some of the future projections for market share, comparative analysis, and so it continues. This is merely a list of how you would want to search or use these wordings to find the different flavors of the reports that contain separate information, or it could be information that are similar, yet they are presented in all different formats, because the objective of the report under the major heading would be different. So that's the purpose of this slide, for you to get familiar with the naming of different types of reports in the general sense or at a meta level. Then we will see this slide, which is, why is it not showing? I have to reload this.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm embarrassed to say that I kind of fell behind on my reading. And I noticed in the book to the class only goes up to, I think, chapter 25 or something like that. So does that mean the rest of the chapters are on PowerPoint or something like that?
No, these are the type of information that would actually connect with some of the charts. For instance, the one that I was just about to bring up, it would relate to the information in the book, but more to do with the chart. So if you see a chart like this one in the book, this chart.
Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. In my book, maybe I downloaded an older book, but my book only went up to chapter 25 or 26 or something like that. I think it's more than, I mean, it goes up to chapter 30, I believe.
I think this is 34 chapters.
Yeah. So I got an older book somehow. Yeah.
I mean, this is the newest one. So let me just check again. For you, 26, 32. I've got 39. In fact, I have 37.
Okay. Well, I don't want to take up too much time. I'll check it again. And if I'm right, I'll reach out to you.
The last chapter is chapter 39.
Yeah, my manual, the book that I have, it only goes up to page 296 or something like that.
I think you're reading the wrong book.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is the standard book for everybody. I'm wondering what book you're referring to. If I have to go back and look it up in your Dropbox, I know exactly where this one is sitting.
Okay.
This is my Dropbox. It's the same as yours. So
Right.
if I have to find the exact same book, I'll go to CIRS Training Guide 5.0, 1194. And further, if I click on it, and I don't know what the password is. What is the password? This is
CI,
the
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
mm, it's okay. Let's just open it up first. It seems like the same book, but let me just check the chapter number, the last one. I think it's more than the number of pages you've mentioned. So obviously, you must be reading something different. This has up till chapter 39 as the last chapter.
Yeah. So,
So
yeah.
maybe I think if I'm not wrong, there could be another book that you, since you're referring to the number of pages as being 200 something, maybe this is the one that you're referring to, Research Information Reference. I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
mm. So
I'm going to go into the Dropbox and literally download
yes,
everything that's in everything and put it in a separate folder
I
on my
think that's a
desktop. So,
good idea. Everyone should do that, I think,
okay.
for everyone, because this information is available to you up until, I think, for up to a year. And who knows,
Okay.
the time passes quickly, and after that, you won't have access to it. Also, that could be
Yeah,
another reason.
I'll go back and check. I think I have the wrong one. No problem. I just wanted to ask about that, make sure that we're on the
Right.
same page.
So,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take up too much
no
time.
worries. It's fine. I'm glad you brought it up because, I mean, I don't want you to make it will be a major mistake otherwise. Okay. So here, this is a list of different types of research reports, and most of these are internally generated within the organization. And because the nature of these reports, certain information sets have to be gathered from outside of the organizations. Like this information can only be collected by doing research to find information from the competitor or other resources. Um, and then they have to become part, or they have to integrate with the internal information sets to keep or to build a relational data, or to make it more impactful for these internally generated management reports to contain something to compare with as external resource to give bearings or give a sense to where the figures or the information stands in comparison to what is out there. So because that external information part is can be outsourced, and because a lot of times people in the organization, they don't have the capacity or they don't have the expertise to gather that info, it will be outsourced to the researchers. And because of that, it becomes an opportunity for the research analyst or external researcher to reach out to those people responsible for those reports, or the head of the departments, or somewhere the senior executive levels, to be in touch with, in order for you to establish a relationship where they would consistently outsource this type of work to you as an independent contractor. So this is another type of opportunity which a lot of researchers miss out on. And here the idea is for us to first of all have a sense and a knowledge to know what type of data or what type of information sets can be obtained externally so that you can package them or bring them to the notice of the management as part of your service packages. And when we look at some of the naming of these reports, you would know precisely where the opportunity is for that information to flow into their internal management reporting system. Broadly, we have identified areas that would be responsible for for using or generating these reports that are set in under these headings. In marketing and sales, for example, we have a list that starts with campaign effectiveness and ends at advertising campaign reports. And there could be many others as well. However, to us, this seems quite a bit of reports and might be, uh, you know, might be conclusive in or typically used. So take an example in marketing and sales, you would have campaign effectiveness reports. This is used by marketing department to see what was the end result of their marketing efforts. Marketing is a process which is not just one event, it is an ongoing and progressively it delivers the results over a period of time. So to see effectiveness of it, you would have to know, if the sales were impacted, how much of it was impacted, how where your target advertisements were more effective, what target audience were impacted by your campaign. So that is what we generally call campaign effectiveness reports. So within the campaign effectiveness, there could be a lot of data and information which might require assistance from outside researchers. Similarly, and by the way, all of these that are listed here would have elements of information that are interchangeable or they are repeatedly used from one report to another, or the in other words, you could say that it is like a pharmacy formula. Ingredients could be the same, but how you put them together would make it into or label it as a separate medication. So assuming that each one of these, let's say comparative analysis, for example, this requires business intelligence. Business intelligence can be used in brand research. Business intelligence can be used in so many different reports like consumer insights reports, consumer satisfaction research, customer segmentation research. So these are all named as generic or general type of typical reports that are supposed to be available for the management for decision making and coming from the marketing and sales department. So if you Google, let's say, a word like brand research, and you find that what is involved in brand research, you would see that it has an itemized information on what type of data needs to be collected or what could be the logical data that would be uh, that needs to be available for brand research. So if I want to collectively put them under the umbrella of marketing and research, marketing and sales, this is where you would focus on to look for these reports to find what is involved or what are the data units or the information sets that are required, specifically the one that needs to be collected externally. So this is for you, Anthony. Um, so you know that this marketing and sales, if this is the area of your research, then you would want to learn more about these reports. These are mentioned not as something that we have to describe or go into details of what is involved in them, because it is a subject in itself. So the idea is just to give you an awareness of opportunities that come with the internal reports which require external assistance or external data. In company research reports, for example, if you are experts of somewhat an expert in company research, or you're interested in companies, you may have a skill that allows you to do, equity evaluation, for instance. Equity evaluation is assets minus liabilities, whatever the net worth of the business is. These type of reports are more interesting or more sought after by the external, lenders, investors, bankers, and so on and so forth, and the shareholders. Share valuation reports, company assets valuation reports. All of these, or some of these at least, are audited, or it's a kind of information which has a higher level of responsibility from the management to be presented to the investors and shareholders. So it may require not just the auditor's input, but also verification from the external researchers. And therefore, they're listed here. And so it continues, eh? So you understand now what is the idea behind listing these in this chart. You could even see business intelligence reports. What are key performance indicators? Performance indicators, you should know. Business performance management reports, spreadsheet analysis, ad hoc query. I mean, these are just some of the ways in which ad hoc query, by the way, with software means that it is extracting data automatically from any source that is visible or is indexed as pages in the search engine. And because it is very extensive, it requires an automated process. And so there are these specialized software that collect that information. Okay. They send robots or bots out there for it to just query and hit those pages that has these terminologies or these data fields mentioned and compared, and therefore would be directing the software to fetch information that is set against or next to those keywords or key, um, you could say that these are, the parameters. For instance, the chief executive or sales figures or some of these names that you will mention in the software, and it'll look for it and look for the data that is related to it and just capture it automatically and keeps it. And over a 24 hours period, you'd see tens of thousands of data tables getting being collected from this software. So that's what it means, ad hoc query with software. Data mining is another field. Data visualization is analysis techniques, predictive modeling, and so on. So all of these business intelligence reports would require something that you compare with or something you bring as external knowledge in order for the management to have some perspective. Industry research, industry key statistic performance, industry key benchmarks, and so on. These are some of them. Like I said, I mean, there could be many others, but because we are exploring the opportunities within the organization for the research data, we have to mention these reports because these are the ones that are hungry for that info. Some of the popular areas of research today, basically, like I said, if you are a knowledge worker or someone who is experienced in certain specific profession or certain area like market research or financial research or investigative, all of these makes it a specialized research, or you could say that you are subject specialist. So there is this one area which is a specialization, popular research in businesses. You can pick any of these, or you can just package them as offerings. You can also look for opportunities as a generalist, or as someone what we call KPOs, or knowledge professional outsourcing, or knowledge professionals that can be outsourced as independent researchers. Generally, there could be sales leads collection, data scraping. Data scraping, you can do with the software these days, just the one I mentioned. Excuse me. So KPO these days, before there used to be a terminology, and still is, it's called BPO, business process outsourcing of back office. These type of researches are outsourced for cost reasons, to third world countries, or countries that has the experts or knowledgeable people, but they don't have to pay them much. So what used to be BPO at a low cost points has now converted into KPO, um, or a knowledge professional outsourcing. That means these BPOs have gained specialized knowledge or expertise over a period of time that allows them to be called experts now. So there could be people who are experts in lead collection, and that could be a KPO option. Market research data, surveys, polls, including social media research, all of these can be considered as part of the KPO, or knowledge process outsourcing. So this is another opportunity, and usually is easily available on platforms such as Upworks, Fiverr, what else? Uh, People for hire, and so on and so forth. So, but there it's usually low cost points, and you have to compete with with those that can still accept a far less price on hourly basis. So it's very competitive. These two opportunities are generally are how we would separate them, just looking at what is a fundamental difference in the type of opportunities. Okay. So in the market research area, because we get a lot of questions in market research, a lot of our students are interested in doing these, market related research work. So we've put a few slides that's just, clarifying a few areas in market research. So in market research, there is product launch, which is, before they launch the product, or while the product is there out in the market, but it's not doing very well, or the product itself is sort of depreciating, or new technology is coming. All of those situations require market research, but product launch is usually something where the product is not in the market, and that is where they require most of the market research. Then surveys, uh, people's qualitative surveys are more sought after, and there is a specialization um, in areas of conducting professional surveys that pay a high price, or higher rates you can command if you are good at qualitative surveys. Okay. And I mean, this could be altogether a different area for someone to specialize in. Then you've got industry reports. It could be another part of market research. A lot of people who are designing industry reports, as a business, they might require outside research help, and especially if it is an expertise area. in certain industries, like somebody who is a CPA or coming from the accounting background or finance background, they might want to involve that kind of expertise. Equity verification, supply, demand, risk analysis. Risk analysis is yet another area. So industry reports could be one of those market research areas which are considered, or at least three of these are considered the situations where market research is generally required. Um, um, Let me, before I get to this, let me yeah. So I'm just going to bring this over here. In fact, let me just bring it way down. Let's look at the opportunities or external opportunities. We talked about different types of internal research reports. Let's look at the outside opportunities. So a lot of times students want to be very specific. They want to know where we can find quick research work. So this is one of the ways in which you can look for, or within these portals that are mentioned here, like upworks.com, people per hour, elancer, odesk, so on and so forth. But there could be others which are um, something different from what is available in these platforms. Generally, platforms like Upwork, for example, which is similar to everything else that's listed here, is connecting the clients or the prospective clients with the projects in hand, and the um, profiled, or those workers or those outsourced help that want to connect or take up those projects. So these are just those virtual platforms, and there could be others, but by far Upwork is the biggest one. So this is one quick opportunities to find a lot of easy to get, or you could say that more variety of research work that is available online. The second forum is, of course, your social media accounts, Craigslist, Angie's List. So this is where you can get the temporary work, or you can be doing telecommuting, finding opportunities. Nothing, no big deal. I mean, a lot of us already have this information. But let's look at the variety of the platforms that only are looking for experts in certain areas to do research work. One example is askwonder.com. Askwonder.com is a research on demand. Like a lot of times you don't want to outsource a short-term research, or you don't have enough time to look or to give out a long-term work, and you want quick answers or quick research on one subject or one area. So you can look for the opportunities on platforms like askwonder.com. What AskWonder does is that they hire researchers that would work with them on their own time and their availability. So you can register with askwonder.com. Mobileexpressions.com is a site that gives answers. It's a Q&A. It's more like a forum, but at the same time, you have to have an account with them, and they give you solutions to problems that has to do with your mobile devices. Inbox dollars is, I don't know what it does, but it is another one of those sites which would answer some of the questions you have, or you can answer questions for others quickly and in real time if you'd like, and you make quick bucks. So there are so many different varieties of these type of opportunities. However, the three that I've just explained to you come under the heading of answering questions. Then there are others which we call online work opportunities, and there could be several. Like, for example, you can give opinions. You may start as someone that is, and of course, you get paid for whatever services are delivered through these. So if it is an opinion outpost, for example, you start as a temporary worker, and if you're good at it, and if you make it as a regular business for yourself or as a regular opportunity, working more than 20 or 30 hours a week, they will keep you permanently. So this is opinion post. User testing. Third parties give their software or their websites to get opinion from experts. You can be registered as an expert in usertesting.com. Surveyjunkie.com is another one. And so all of these have different types of opportunities, which is quick, easy, and at times it requires a level of expertise, like writing reviews on things. If you're good and analytical and critical thinker, you probably want to adopt a profile that makes you stand out as an expert reviewer. And so it continues. Typically outsourced. What is typically outsourced these days, and what we consider as having the most opportunities, or where there is more advertised um, areas of work for the researchers or outsourced researchers, is the leads generation, data mining. If you use these terms and search for opportunities in Upworks, and keep using the word Upworks is because that's what I'm familiar with. So lead generation, data mining, you will get exactly those projects. Data verifications, website content. So all of these are listed, even virtual assistant. A lot of times researchers are looking for virtual assistant, or in fact, they work as research assistants. That's where it drives you. If, say, somebody is a writer on a subject matter and is writing quite a few articles on regular basis, they might need some research. Content writer, content specific research, all of these are listed here just because these are opportunities and because it is part of your course, something some of you might want to look at and find opportunities in these areas. It has become quite popular, and um, one of those things we never used to have, but we put it in there just so that we get less questions about typically we get what opportunities do we have after we do CIRS. So on those lines, we decided we want to put in some extra slides here. Outside of, and then there is online job searches. Um, in fact, I shouldn't be discussing these slides, as these are self-explanatory and these are listed in the book. So these can be explained better if you have to go through the chapter itself. Generally, my emphasis would be, besides the internal research reports and you're having the knowledge of those, the second aspect I would cover is how to engage with the client in terms of exchanging of documents. How do you do your research project in terms of pricing out your efforts or your hourly rates? How do you compute that? How do you figure out the complexity of a research project? What are some of the pricing methods? Like, what is industrially acceptable pricing methods in research work? Depending on the type of research, depending on the period length of research, depending on the expertise required, and whether or not you want to hire outside consulting, because not every researcher or all research firm has experts or industry experts under the same roof. So how do you do the pricing in that way? So we'll discuss that part, and then we will also discuss how do we do costing of the project. Like there is a difference between cost and the price. Pricing is what you're going to bill the client. And when you are billing, you have to also understand the cost aspect of what it would actually cost you to deliver an hourly rate, or how can you add the element of cost within the price so that you would not go lower than what is to be considered as a threshold or a break even for your profitability, ensuring that you don't land into any losses. Lastly, the contractual obligation of both parties, how those gets fulfilled. From the point of view of a contract, that should have certain elements or the basic elements that should remain intact, or where you should put more emphasis in figuring out, for instance, the price quotes within the contract to know time versus milestones versus delivery of the project versus billing. And when you actually get to the billing, what are the things that needs to be finished? So there has to be a checklist. That's typically what will prepare you to run your own business independently, or at least this is the bare minimum knowledge you should have. I've explained the in general what is to follow after we get this done today. The next class will cover all that I've explained and will be more interesting and more useful for you. So when we meet day after tomorrow, I will finish up, I'll start and finish up all that I've explained to you now. And that would conclude our module 3. After that, we are left with module 4, which is to cover the cyber laws and ethics. That would be another 2 classes or 3 classes. So we have generally about 2, 4, 5 to 6 more classes left. So I would request your patience and your being around and attending the last leg of it, since you have already made the effort and you've been consistent. I appreciate that. Any questions I can answer for you?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Just in the first part, when you discussed the skills needed for professional researcher, you talked about online tools. Now, as we build queries and we search a lot online, it's like human-based research. What tools do you suggest, like to organize information? I mean, apart from bookmarks, etc., just to help us with automation. I mean, some parts of our research steps. Yeah, I don't know, like,
Because research itself is so customized. I haven't seen 2 researches to be exactly the same. So there is this peculiarity and specific elements or ingredients that differentiate the use of softwares to run for that particular research. Giving you an example, if you're doing academic research, you're doing within academic research that has to do with physics or metaphysics or anything that is scientific. Perhaps you would want to direct your searches to more authentic resources like professional journals, like research directories, and that would put those resources in a special slot. So in order for us to understand that there is no such thing as automation, there is only one thing that has to be of relevance in to answer your question, and that is to make the best categorization or make the best labeling for the resources that you will put under those labels. That could be represent, and you can make it as granular as you want. So to have a collection of those resources as links, That's probably what we are getting to. Eventually, it is the links, and then there could be software links, or there could be utilities or tools, as you have mentioned, that does specialized searches. So to know where they are, how you have organized them, you can do it in the most simplistic way. You can use directories that we already have created for you as references. You can even put those directories in any kind of software you want. It could be, a simple Excel sheet. It's just a matter of your ability to find them where they can be found in the in the most I guess in a depending on how you have um, given them the headings or how you have organized them. For instance, I'd give you an idea of how we do our own research when we have to use tools and those specialized utilities and softwares and so on. To open it up in your Dropbox, I would point you to these directories that are already made, and these get updated on regular basis, but not as often as you like. I mean, who knows? Every day there is new startups coming up with new innovation and more applications that do these kind of searches. So we are not 100% sure, but at least we'd say about more than 70% is covered in these documents, which is where I'm going to show you. Where is it? Research information. That's what Anthony's been reading. Uh, so let's suppose that this is the book that I would I would point to in order for
Yeah.
you to.
Yeah, actually, tools like Zotero, for example, for research papers. I thought there is another software for websites. Yeah, that's the type of utilities, as you said. Yeah.
There is, and there are, and there could be more, but they're here. That's what I'm saying. I'll show you where they are.
Oh, great, great.
Well, I don't know if this is helpful or not, Mitchie, but I Google a lot because, like, you know, things are changing so much. Like today, I just Googled a topic and found a wealth of information. So, like, you could actually Google research tools or digital research tools or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's fine. In fact, you'd find something new every time. Thing is that we have people who are dedicated to do these searches like on regular basis, and so they are collecting you know tools, as I've about to mention to Majdi. For example, let's click on academic journals. Here you could see that these are actually listed here. So if it has to do with physics, academia is there. But there are other softwares as well. I think that's going to follow. These are called research tools. There is a topic or a heading somewhere.
Yes.
Let me,
So, sort of data management tools, sort of, yeah. The whole cycle.
yeah, the forensic tools, document searches. For example, these are document searches. Um,
Oh, great. Yeah.
Dog Hound, for example, we use it, but it's not as updated. So you can even see the grading is here. Like this one is 5 plus, which means that this is top rated for research. We have a criteria on rating them, like depending on the ease of use, the volume of content, quality of content, authenticity of the information, um, how many times it gets refreshed, or is it something that is and on all those criteria. So they have a checklist. Based on that, they have a numbering that they allocate. 5 plus is the highest. Okay. um
Yeah.
See, this
Archiving,
is
very important.
a very good application for desktop search management.
Yeah.
as an example. So, and of course, these are all placed under the headings, which makes it even easier to discover, right? Ebook search engine, right? Fine, okay. So it continues. I mean, this is quite a large collection. If it is 211 pages to this book, maybe 150 are the pages just exhibiting the listing of those tools, utilities, as well as search engines and databases. It's a collection of everything.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
And software you can discover, there are a lot of management
Yeah.
software, you know.
Because I noticed that some use software, but unfortunately for them, they don't master research techniques online, but they just they buy subscriptions, especially in competitive intelligence marketing software, and
Right.
they apply scraping, they put keywords, but I don't
Right.
think it's as complex and as efficient, like human-based research. That's my opinion anyway. That's why actually we are doing the course. Yeah.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
The thing is that these are marketing companies. These are not really delivering information. They're just delivering database for which they want to, charge a lot of money. And that collection may not be. And if you read the contract and read between the fine prints, you will see that there is a caveat, there is a legal disclaimer as well as a legal terms of use, whether you can use that data in a certain way or reproduce it, or disclaimer if somebody says that you took my information. Like some of the researches we did somehow got into the public domain, someone uploaded it on the internet, and ResearchGate is just copied it and archived it. And now what they're doing is they're selling that, information. So thing is that it's a weird world when it comes to, the ownership or the plagiarism of information, something that has a legal or legal use or not. Sometimes there is a borderline or is a gray area, and for anyone to rely on those databases that ask for money, I'm not talking about research reports, I'm talking about databases, right? That information is shady, and even that needs to be verified. Uh, so anyway, it's just a matter of judgment and depends on your project, um, your need of your client's request requirement for verification or level of verification you need to do. All that plays a part. And we'll keep looking for information. It's been happening for ages, thousands of years. This thing will continue. We'll keep finding new facts, add more to it. Relevant or not will just depend on, honestly, right now it's driven by money. If you want to find information, good enough, but you need to spend money to go for it. Meaning that money does not mean that you have to pay for something, but in order for you to make that effort to physically go somewhere, collect that information as the investigators used to do before. They even used to go through the garbage cans to pick up papers, you know. So information is there, it's everywhere, it's floating around. It just depends on, how reliable it is and whether or not it's worth your money. Like corporate, open corporates, for example, would have the same amount of data, same level of data, perhaps even more data than LexisNexis, right? I mean, LexisNexis a lot of times does not have a legal right to give that detail of financial records or the depth of financial record that they sometimes do. I mean, and at times it is not even complete, and a lot of times it is stale information. So, thing is that open corporates would do the same thing with newer, latest information, perhaps, and for less money, or in fact, no money at all. It's a public information. Most of the information collected these days are public information that is held in the government databases or international organizations, or those organizations that are NGOs, they're collecting, preparing reports, and they're doing groundworks. And those information are obtained for free and then organized and presented in such a way that they look expensive. There is, well, I don't want to take a
Yeah, you could go on and on.
yeah.
I have to admit, I have to confirm you're right.
Mm.
That's why I signed up for this course. That's why I joined the association, because my skill set is writing. Like, I like to write, so that's probably what I'm going to do a lot of, right? And I wanted a way to a standardized way to look for credible information. And
Yes.
I found this organization. I'm so glad. I'm happy to be in this course. Basically, for everything you just said, for all
Thank
those
you
reasons.
so much. I really appreciate it, and I hope it is as useful to everybody else also. And this is just the beginning. I mean, later on we have other plans. We are going to get more into the forensic sides of online investigative research to learn a bit more and go a step further than just the CIRS level. So we'll keep everybody updated as we progress. And because it's a voluntary organization, a lot of us are, donating our time. Most are already retired. Some are coping with the technology that is changing so rapidly. So the effort is more to bring the understanding and the common knowledge for people to know that finding information on the internet is a science, it's a skill, and what to do with the information is another skill that goes hand in hand. So that is what we promote. Our objective is really to keep progressing in the same direction and grow with more knowledge and bring more knowledge and more courses to audience like you. So thank you so much
Thank you.
for the evening and for your time.
Thank you.
Romy, Joanne, Anthony, uh, Majdi, thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
See you day after.
Thank you.
Bye-bye
See you
for now.
soon.
All
Bye-bye.
right.
Thank you
See
very
you
much.
Wednesday. Thank you.
See you Wednesday. Thanks.
All right.